I will read a couple of words from Jiddu Krishnamurti on loneliness and aloneness. So it goes something like this. It is good to be alone, to be far away from the world and yet walk its street is to be alone. To be alone walking up the path beside the rushing, noisy mountain stream full of spring water and melting snows is to be aware of that solitary tree alone in its beauty. The loneliness of man in the street is the pain of life. He is never alone, far away, untouched and vulnerable. To be full of knowledge is never to be alone. And the activity of that knowledge breeds endless misery. The demand for expression with its frustrations and pains is that man who walks the streets, he is never alone. Sorrow is the movement of that loneliness. How often do we try to find a solution to our loneliness? And in trying to find the solution to something that we haven't examined properly, is falling more and more into the depths of illusion. So the first question is, where is loneliness coming from? There is a sense of emptiness which we all experience. And the initial impulse is to escape that emptiness through some activity. It can be consuming substance, scrolling social media, sexual activity, or just engaging the mind somewhere to avoid the rush of thoughts. Now, all of it does bring temporary relief, but the emptiness comes back to haunt us. And why is it so? The thing is that we have not observed this emptiness in totality to see what it really is. The moment we face even the slightest of discomfort, there is an impulse, an immediate reaction to it that I must escape this. And in that escape, sometimes we try to go and seek opinion of the experts, so-called experts. And we read a barrage of opinions. Now the thing is that the impulse that is driving me towards that activity is basically an anxiety to escape pain. I am feeling anxiety because of the emptiness and I want to escape that pain. So what I do, I just try to find relief. And sometimes that happens as confirmation bias. My idea is that the world is wrong, I am right. The world has not understood me. The world does not respect me. People who are close to me do not value my presence. I am constantly fighting with an image. And in that anxiousness, I just take whatever opinion I come across. Any random person on any of the social media platforms, on threads or social media threads or anything, I just read their opinion and I believe that to be the truth. Or I consume content somewhere where they say this is good, this is bad, this is the way it should be. And that's the way it should not be. So I'm totally stuck into this dualism, clinging from one end to the other, and both are bringing me misery. Sometimes I feel I'm on the right path, and I convince the mind, it's okay. I have to embrace this loneliness. So I separate myself, physically isolate myself, and trap myself in my room or in some place where nobody disturbs me. But then I'm haunted by the emptiness. Next time I come to a conclusion that no, I want to get into a relationship. That relationship will bring me peace, happiness, and everything else that I seek. So I get into a relationship, and initially I experience the highs of the relationship. But then again, I start feeling even more lonelier in that relationship. And I think I was better off before. And now I am in this relationship, my wounds are triggered, and this unhealthy dynamic is happening between me and my partner. And both are feeling lonely, both are feeling frustrated. So what is to be done about this loneliness? First of all, do not seek a solution. Now this seems very counterintuitive, but the mind that is always seeking the solution has a preconceived outcome in the mind. It is tied up to a preconceived outcome, that this is the way it's going to be once I quote unquote fix my loneliness. So what you're going to do is, as I said, you're going to consult the experts, you're going to read books, you're going to do everything other than simply to sit quietly and observe what thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations are arising within you. When you're totally quiet, totally silent, and completely with yourself, something extraordinary happens. You see the anxiety. You face it totally. When I say totally, that means I do not spin a story around every feeling that is coming up. I simply see the feeling. Most of us are not able to do that. The moment a thought comes up, we immediately bring up a story associated with it. They spoke to me like that. That means they are a bad person. They have personality disorders. They have this, they have that. The story is keeping you trapped in a loop. So I must fix them. They must join therapy. They must do this. They must do that. They must take help. It's always, the mind is always outwardly focused. And it is completely avoiding the content, the inner content, what is happening within. But what happens when the mind turns inwards? When the mind turns inwards, there is not much space to move. There is no seeking. There is simply being totally present with whatever content is appearing in consciousness. So one is totally receptive, totally present to everything that arises, every emotion, every thought, every feeling, every sensation. And even if the sensations are intense, one pays complete attention to it. It can be quite challenging. But if one is able to do that and witness in total awareness the content of consciousness, one finds that consciousness and its content are one and the same. That means everything that is arising is temporary. It is arising from a space that is vast and infinite. The changing arises from the unchanging. That is how changing, one is able to discern the change. If you were the change yourself, if you were really this image, this persona with ideas, beliefs, preferences, if you were truly this, then you would know yourself as this persona. To know yourself, there has to be an awareness beyond it that sees it. And that is what you are. So when you are able to rest in that energy of being, of I-amness, what you see is that there is no bifurcation between the inner and the outer. And everything is happening. Now, the nature of my relationships begins to change. And therefore, my relationship with quote-unquote my loneliness also begins to change. It transforms from loneliness to aloneness. Now, Jiddu Krishnamurti call aloneness, alone, the word alone as all one. All one. Alone. All one. That means there is not anything happening over there, neither there is anything happening over here. The notion of one's centeredness is an illusion. It seems as if things are arising from my center and things are being consumed by another center over there. Now, this notion of two centers interacting is an illusion. There are no two. There is only one. The thing is that so many forces are acting in an interaction that it is very difficult to make sense of it. Therefore, when one feels that one is not able to figure out these forces, they start feeling misunderstood. They start feeling unheard. And that brings up this sense of loneliness. I am lonely. Before loneliness is I am. If one just pays attention to that, there cannot be any flow. One then does not require a relationship to fulfill one's emptiness or loneliness. But emptiness is accepted as a part of human existence and not something that has to be solved. So when one witnesses this whole dynamic, one is completely free of trying to solve the problem of human suffering and human loneliness. One simply enjoys the being, the effortless being, completely unaffected by what is happening externally. It is understood that things are happening and they are happening on basis which cannot be made sense by the small limited mind. So the mind stops working in that way, in that direction, in that self-centered way. Mind works intelligently because then the mind is completely alone. A mind that is alone is no mind. It is simply the awareness. And whatever comes out of aloneness is beauty, is radiance, is love. But whatever comes out of loneliness as a reaction just creates more separation and therefore more pain and suffering. Because to the center, the limited self, the sense of separate self, it seems as if my loneliness is greater than any other person's. And it says that I act in this way, I push away people because I have gone through so much trauma. Therefore, my reactions, my defensiveness is justified. But the other is at fault if they do not accept me like that. They should accept me like that. So this whole idea of how people should perceive us or should not perceive us creates more and more anxiousness within us. We are chasing an image that is unattainable. We are constantly fighting with ourselves.